And we're live. How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with our latest breaking news segment as we have the biggest domino in this year's free agency outside of Shohei Ohtani has fallen, and a fellow countryman, Japanese pitching star, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, just like Ohtani, will be landing with the LA Dodgers on a 12-year, $325 million contract. I'm going to be sharing my initial reactions, my thoughts on this as the news continues to come out, what the Mets offer was, how I feel about that, should we be happy, upset, indifferent, and everything in between. And I'm going to just let you know right now, as someone who has spent the past couple months talking about Yamamoto at great length, regardless of the fact that we knew the Dodgers had a great chance. Regardless of that, this is still a massive gut punch. Do not get it twisted. My disappointment level is through the absolute roof right now, and unfortunately, this tends to happen when you're a content creator like me, when you cover every step of a specific player that the Mets are heavily in on, and the Mets have the same exact offer as the Dodgers. Now, my only question here, and I hope we find this out in the next couple minutes, hours, if not day, I want to know, did the Mets have the same offer as the Dodgers because they were under the belief that Yamamoto was going to be coming to them? Was this simply because the Mets felt that that was the right number to go to and they weren't willing to go much higher? If so, then I have a shit ton of criticism to get into. I'm really going to call out Cohen and Stearns if that's the case. Or was this a matter of, regardless on the overpay, Yamamoto had his heart set on the Dodgers? And when we look just on paper, I do not blame Yamamoto in the slightest for going to LA. I do not blame him for going to the Dodgers. We made it abundantly clear after landing the biggest fish in MLB free agency and MLB baseball as a whole, and Shohei Ohtani as a fellow countryman, no less. Of course the appeal is going to be there. The Dodgers are going to be the top dog in baseball for the next number of years, more than likely, and now they just landed arguably what many deem already as the top dog out there. So let's see this. Okay, before the Dodgers landed him, the Mets present Yoshinobu Yamamoto with an offer of $325 million for 12 years, which Los Angeles matched. A league source tells us. Okay, so the Mets had the offer, and here we go. The Mets may have very well been used for leverage in this situation. Could it have been a situation the Mets had the offer? Yamamoto goes back to LA, says, I want to be here, but you need to match this deal. If you match this deal, I will come to you. And that ended up being the case. That very well could have been the reality. Regardless of if the Mets were used for leverage or not, we all just need to take a moment, especially for my Mets fans here. I know we have Yanks fans chiming in because we just did a Yanks-Mets podcast. I know we got Dodgers fans chiming in. Congratulations to you Dodgers fans. I'll say that right now. The Mets have the highest offer on the table. It appears that was the case up until the Dodgers matched it. So regardless on if the Mets were used for leverage or not, if they were given a second opportunity to up their offer, we will hopefully soon find out. Regardless of that, I just want to know everyone's initial gut reactions right now, because as a fan, as a community here, we all went through these emotions together. We're going through them together, okay? So know that this is a safe space. This is a therapy session here. We have a lot to get into. I'm just, man, oh man, am I disappointed, to say the least. I know. Trust me when I say I know, and stop crying, Paul, then don't watch. Don't you dare for even 1 second, any fan, if you have the audacity to come in here and tell me how I need to act on my show, I got news flash for you. Okay, I'm sorry that I'm a young fan that loves to get excited when my club is heavily involved in a top player, especially at Yamamoto's caliber. Anyone writing off Yamamoto now just because he's going to the Dodgers, it says more about you guys than it does about him. You can shit talk the Dodgers all you want. You can say all these things. Of course, you can shit talk Yamamoto if you want to, if he ends up using the Mets for leverage here, if that was the case. But let's not be hypocrites at the same time. 90% at minimum of Mets fans would have loved to see Yamamoto in Queens. I'm not going to turn on the guy right now just because he decided not to come here. I may have choice feelings on him if we find out he used the Mets for leverage, but that has yet to be found out. That has yet to be seen at this point in time. We got a bunch of donos to get into. I'm going to do it now. We have almost 1,000 viewers. Happy to have you all in here. This is a Mets fan initial reactions to the breaking news that, yes, the LA Dodgers have landed the most coveted MPB star coming from the MPB. Of course, their bat being and starring pitcher Yoshinobu Yamamoto on a 12-year, $325 million contract. The Dodgers matched the Mets offer, and they got it done. And you know what I hear when I see that? It sounds a hell of a lot like a Yoshinobu Yamamoto that wanted to go to the Dodgers and just wanted them to meet his price point. I have a very strong feeling that ended up being the case to the point where, I'm done saying next time, goodbye, Warrior, goodbye, Mets. Peace, Mosh. Have a good one. My Mets fandom is never going to change just because they lost out on top talent. Unfortunately, shit happens. It is what it is here. But what I'm going to say is, man, do we think they were used for leverage, guys? I want to know that's how you're feeling. I know people on replay are like, oh my God, like this was quite the journey. Because I just have so many emotions at the moment. Pardon my French, I'm so fucking pissed off. I am so pissed off beyond belief. It's just a matter of who should I be pissed off at. Should I just be pissed about the situation? Should I be pissed at Cohen and Stearns, which I'm going to refrain from doing until we find out a little bit more? Should I just be pissed at the Dodgers for spending $1 billion this offseason? And unfortunately for the Mets, they weren't in position. You want to know what's even... Actually, guys, let's just take a minute. You want to know what really grinds my gears just for a second? What really grinds my gears is the fact that the Mets had a successful 2023 season, and things went better than certainly what they did. If they had a successful season, could there be a situation where Yamamoto and the likelihood of him coming here was stronger? Could Ohtani have considered the Mets more heavily if the Mets had a very strong season? Again, we'll never know. Fuck, man. This stings. Jets, thank you so much for $5 holla. Says, Wardy, I'm beyond disappointed right now. If they come back and sign Snell, I'd be sick to my stomach. I won't be sick to my stomach if the Mets sign Snell, but I have a lot of reservations if you're going to commit a long-term deal to Blake Snell. And we have a lot of questions now as to what this Mets team is going to do next after losing on Yamamoto. And we talked about all the pretty much endless possibilities, but we will reaffirm them here in the show. I'm sure we'll come out with a video and a stream tomorrow talking more about this. Pardon me. Lou, thank you for the membership, brother. Anthony Viola, great friend of mine. Thank you so much for a donation, Anthony. He says, according to Mike Puma, Mets had an offer of 12 years, $325. Yep, Ohtani was the reason. No one would be shocked if Ohtani's the reason here. No one would be shocked. Wow, Dodgers are stacked. Yes, they are, Forrest. Happy to have you in here, brother. Appreciate you chiming in. Another fellow content creator in this space. Appreciate you. Man, oh man. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to gather my thoughts along with finding out the latest information. Have not found out anything beyond the fact that the Mets had the highest offer along with the Dodgers. Dodgers matched, and they get their guy. The Yankees didn't go past 300, apparently. So the Yanks, again, a lot of people were saying Steinbrenner was going to come out and prove everyone wrong. He did anything but. So to all the Yanks fans out there that had their confidence level at 100 that Yamamoto would be landing there, welcome to what it's like to be a fan of a big market club and not always getting what you want. That's us Mets fans go through it far too much. So much more than Yanks fans. Even Yanks fans over the past decade have little complaint about in comparison to the Mets. Your only complaining is that you haven't gone over past the Astros and the ALCS. Beyond that, still, at least he's not a Yankee. Yes, of course I'm happy about that. It sucks that he's with LA, though, because they're just such a juggernaut. Holy shit. My God. Granted, I know the best team on paper does not necessarily equate success. The Dodgers have proven to be the best team, a historic team in regular season, have fumbled when it's mattered most. But what did the Dodgers do this offseason? They did exactly what they needed to do. They went all in on the two best talents pretty much available in not only this free agent class, but likely for years going forward. You can make the rightful argument that Ohtani is just on the same wavelength, if not better than Juan Soto, especially when he returns to his pitching form. Yamamoto is deemed as a Cy Young caliber pitcher already when the guy isn't even pitching the bigs. He just got the highest paid contract in MLB's history as a starter when he hasn't pitched one game at the MLB level. And with the posting fee, the Dodgers are spending $375 million. The LA Dodgers already this offseason have spent over $1.1 billion in players. So to all the fucks out there that have the audacity to label Steve Cohen as being the problem once he comes into ownership for the Mets, that he's going to be the problem, that the tax should be because of him. This was the problem. This is the problem. Not a Steve Cohen spending roughly $40 million for a couple years on grizzled vets for their rotation, but rather spending $700 million with $680 million deferred, $325, including a $50 million posting fee. But no, Steve Cohen is the fucking problem. So apologies for the profanity. I know I need to be better. I really do apologize to my younger viewers. Earmuffs, guys, you know the drill. But the emotions are high right now. The emotions are certainly high. This really feels like the Mets had a nice offer in place. Yamamoto said, match this and I'm yours. And if you're Yamamoto in that situation, why wouldn't you do that? That's what I mean. I have little to no, misunderstanding of that type of situation. If I'm Yamamoto and putting myself in his shoes right now, why wouldn't I do exactly that, right? Is there enough appeal for the Mets over the next decade in comparison to the Dodgers? There isn't. That's why money had to have probably been the driving factor. The Mets had the money on the table. Could they have gotten an opportunity to go higher? I don't think so. Personally, it feels like because the Mets have the offer in first, Yamamoto goes to LA, says, I don't know what your guys' willingness was to go here, but if you're willing to go here, I will definitely choose you because I would love to be here. You know, but I need you to, at minimum, give me this amount of money. If that's the case, then that's the case. Then that's raps, folks. That's what we're dealing with. And I want them to spend $200 million on Jordan Montgomery. That's not the case. I like Monty a lot, but I can understand not wanting to overpay a mid-rotation piece. Blake Snell, how many of us fans truly want Blake Snell on a 7-8 year contract? I understand Steve Cohen has a willingness to, of course, eat salary down the road, but if you're Blake Snell and you're the Mets, does that even make a lot of sense? He's already in his 30s. The reason why Yamamoto is so appealing outside of his brilliant talent is his age. He fitted that short and long-term vision. No one else available in the market fits that. Unless you go via trade for a controllable asset, at least 2, 3, 4, 5 years of control. Not rentals. I highly doubt they're going to go after Burns. I highly doubt they're going to go after Bieber. There's been nothing to indicate that for obvious reasons. This really feels like a Mets team that unfortunately they did all their best to land him, and now they're screwed. And now they're in a spot where it's like, okay, we don't want to give up the entire farm, but at the same time, we do need to act on this because we need to still round out this rotation. To go from a Yamamoto to potentially... I will say this. There is one starter out there in this free agent market that I really hope the Mets at least do their best to land. If they don't, it is going to frustrate me because I really do like the guy. Shota Imanaga. Shota Imanaga is the exception because while he may profile best as a mid-rotation piece, you could argue his ceiling is higher than Jordan Montgomery's because he has so much to prove at the MLB level. Yes, there's more uncertainty involved. I understand that. But Montgomery and Imanaga, while they're both very appealing, I think Imanaga is going to come cheaper than Monty, and I think Imanaga is a guy that does fit the Mets' bill still if he signs a Kodai Senga-esque contract. I'm not opposed to that. The Mets go down that route, but we're just filled with so much uncertainty now that this has transpired. I've been saying he wasn't coming. The Mets have been an image problem. They're not an attractive team, and Cohen blowing up the team rubbed some players wrong way. I don't know necessarily how much that's true because I think it was the right move for the Mets to sell the way that they did at this year's trade deadline. I really do. I think it would have been foolish to stand pat and try to sneak into playoffs because that team just wasn't good enough. The Mets, with spotlight on them, just couldn't handle it this year whatsoever. They were absolute cheeks. We have 1,400 concurrent viewers. Happy to have you all in here, guys. Thank you all so much. Martino with frown face. Let's see what Andy Martino said. I know we got more donations I got to get to. Bear with me, guys. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. Also, everybody, if you're first chiming in, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button for your boy as we live react in real time. Almost close to midnight here Eastern. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the most coveted pitcher in this year's free agent class, has signed with the LA Dodgers on a 12-year, $325 million contract. Now we're in therapy session as fellow fans. Also, we're breaking down and trying to rationalize why this happened. Did the Mets get screwed here? Did the Mets shoot themselves in the foot here? And everything in between. No deferrals on Yamamoto's contract, by the way, which shouldn't come as a surprise to literally anyone. Yamamoto was someone, a very different circumstance here than Ohtani. Because a lot of people are like, why isn't Yamamoto not going to defer his contract too? Why would he? He's 25 years of age. He hasn't hit the MLB level yet. He hasn't made nearly the amount of money that Ohtani has. The only reason why Ohtani deferred his contract as much as he did is because, one, he's made roughly 40 to 50 million a year since he arrived in the league, close to, especially over the past season, just on his marketing alone, his sponsorships, his merch, all that stuff. He makes an absolute bag as is because he is not only a national phenom, but a global phenom for that matter. Yamamoto doesn't have nearly the money, doesn't have nearly the recognition. So that was a heavy factor into why the deferments happened so easily when Ohtani approached it. And two, Ohtani wanted to make sure that the Dodgers would be putting themselves in the best foot forward to still win now throughout his contract. If that deferment didn't happen, the Dodgers don't land Yamamoto. So truthfully, if you want someone to blame more than anyone for them landing Yamamoto, it's all Ohtani. Ohtani single-handedly changed that franchise significantly and very well could have approached them now with multiple championships coming their way. Unfucking believable. The Mets could have spent that money, Wardy? No. On who? On who? How many rational Mets fans want the Mets to go out and spend $325 this offseason for the sake of spending it? That's a stupid thought process. That is not how you equate consistent success. That's Artie Moreno and the LA Angels talking, saying, hey, Billy Epler, I know you missed out on Garrett Cole and Zach Wheeler, and I know we need starting pitching, but I'm going to push you aside and I'm going to sign the best next available player out there, even if he's not a position of need. Let me introduce you to Anthony Rendon, who has been since the worst contract in Major League Baseball's history. You do not operate in that manner. Are the Mets going to spend this offseason? Absolutely. Are they going to spend nearly to the degree of a Yamamoto? I don't foresee that to be the case, and I don't blame them. Yamamoto was always this unique circumstance, this unique situation that separated himself from the rest. There was valid reasoning as to why you'd go out of your way to land him or try to. It sucks if they didn't land him, but no, I'm not in favor of wanting to allocate all this money elsewhere. That's a silly note. Where are you allocating it? You want to give an absolute bag to Blake Snell? Okay. But think about it. For a Mets team that on paper is not even going to be better than the Phillies, probably not better. They're not going to be better than the Braves and the Phillies on paper more than likely next season. Why would they invest in Blake Snell when there's a great reality that over the next at least 2 seasons, the Mets may not be in a position, or at least next season at bare minimum, where they're a World Series contender? How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. Next year's free agent starting pitching class is loaded with talent. Of course, nothing's a guarantee, but you have Zach Wheeler, you have Zach Wheeler, Max Fried, Walker Buehler, Shane Bieber, Corbin Burns. If Roki Sasaki gets posted, that'll be the next big thing from the MPB. I know I'm already going to lose my shit when he lands inevitably with the Dodgers and they have this 3-headed monster of a Japanese rotation I always dream the Mets of having. Point is, there's a lot of top talents available next offseason, which is exactly why the Mets have viewed 2025 as the start of their, on paper, contention year. Next season is to be heavily competitive and hopefully crack a playoff spot. Yamamoto, again, was that unique exception that separated himself from the rest. He did not deviate from the Mets' both short and long-term plan under Stearns and Cohen. Most of the other guys in the free agent class, pitching-wise, they do deviate from that. So unless you're acquiring short-term filler options, which the Mets will likely do at least one more, they really like Jordan Montgomery, but who's not to say the Yanks won't act desperate now and do all they can to land Monty in a reunion? Who's not to say the Red Sox won't act incredibly desperate now to spend on him as he's living in Boston this offseason? Who's not to say that Blake Snell won't get a ridiculous overpay somewhere because these teams are so desperate? The same way us Mets fans are shot in the heart right now, the same way the Yanks are. The same way, to a lesser degree, but still there, San Francisco Giants, Toronto Blue Jays, Philadelphia Phillies. These teams and fan bases are being impacted. But here's the thing. When you go this long of a period of time to be involved in sweepstakes this heavily, this is second straight offseason. The Mets were involved in very heavy sweepstakes for a top player that we knew that they had a solid chance of landing at minimum. Never said that they were for certain going to. Wasn't like Correa, but there are similarities in just another offseason of a top dog. You think you have a great shot at landing, you ultimately don't land them, even if circumstances are a little bit different. How do you sell this to the fans? How is Steve Cohen and David Stearns going to sell this to the fans? They made it abundantly clear that they're going to be heavily competitive next season. But there is no denying that every fan and their mother right now is filled with disappointment, mainly because of the fact that while, yes, we knew the Yanks and the Dodgers always looked like those top dogs, but we also knew that Steve Cohen would be doing his best efforts here. He did. He put up a very respectable offer. The best that was offered to Yamamoto, to the point of him taking a match offer with the same deal with the Dodgers, because if you're him, why wouldn't you do that? My only question with this sweepstake is, were the Mets played here for certain, which is what I believe that they were used for leverage, or was this a situation where the Mets could have went higher, but they chose not to? I don't foresee that to be the case. I have a feeling that as soon as the Dodgers match, Yamamoto said, done deal, we're not going to listen to further offers. He wanted a bag, but he wanted a bag with a team that he could be excited about. And let's be real, Dodgers they're on another stratosphere than the Mets in their current rank as an organization. They have the past decade plus of dominating the NL West. Yes, they don't necessarily have the championship pedigree to show for it. They've only won that shortened season in 2020, but they've been continued top dogs year after year after year. And what have they been missing to get over the hump? A talent like Shohei Ohtani. A talent like Yoshinobu Yamamoto. If the Dodgers do not win it If the Dodgers do not win it all in the next 3 years, most hilarious thing imaginable. And for Yanks fans that were focused on becoming the evil empire again, miss me with that bullshit. You're anything but an evil empire. The evil empire is in LA, all right? This is not the old Steinbrenner days. You cannot be throwing those terms out there anymore. They do not apply to you. You trading for a rental Juan Soto does not make you an evil empire. The LA Dodgers spending $1.1 billion in one offseason makes them the evil empire. That's a fucking fact right there. The Dodgers will be the baseball Cowboys, one can hope, meaning that they're a huge organization with a lot of, in-season success, even though the Cowboys haven't been dominant every single year, but Cowboys haven't won anything since the 90s either. Of course, I'm pretty sure their last championship came against my Steelers, but I digress. Connor with the $10 donation says, sources are saying that the Mets came 12 years, $325 million. The Dodgers match, and that was it. I really don't think we can blame the front office. I don't think we're going to be blaming the front office too, but naturally as fans, we're just pissed the fuck off. Who's not pissed off here? Who's not bothered? The only people that are not bothered are the ones that set their expectations so low. And truthfully, as a fan, I would have done what Pat and my Bridging the Gap podcast did earlier tonight, where Pat had Yamamoto's name muted in Twitter the past week. Why? Because he doesn't talk about the Yanks for a living the way I talk about the Mets for a living. I can't avoid the sweepstakes even if I wanted to, because I got to talk about them. And of course they build excitement, but I go through the emotions like you fellow fans. I have to go through it with you. And this shit sucks. This sucks so much, man. But it's like, all right, what's next for this team? All right, free agent class. Shota Imanaga, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery. That's your 1, 2, 3 big heads. Then you have the Mike Clevengers of the world, the Lucas Giolito's, more short-term filler options. What pieces are the Mets going to land there? Your guess currently is as good as mine until we find out more information. Trade-wise, Dylan Cease has 2 years of control. Is that appealing enough to the Mets? I'm not sure. That might not be appealing enough to them. Maybe they're looking for at minimum 3 years of control if they're going to trade away key assets, especially because Cease is in, there's a trade war going on for him. It's been going on for a couple months now. Like, teams, we need to pony up the best physical trade offer. And for Dylan Cease, I really like him, but I don't want to have to give up an arm and a leg for him either. There's levels to this, and the Mets need to be very strategic about how they operate. I will say this, if it makes Mets fans feel any better, I know it's hard to do, the Mets have fully had a plan in place for weeks now on landing Yamamoto versus not landing Yamamoto. Obviously, they got their hopes up here, but they've had a plan in place. And everyone that's out there in the market, both free agent and trade alike, is still there for the taking that they have presumably been looking at and wanting to acquire. So we'll see what comes out of this. But for now, let's just go through these emotions more as fellow fans here and see how you guys are doing. Transition year with the kid to give the kids a chance. Glad it's over. Next year, get Soto and build through the trade market at this point as well. But next year will be a very good free agent market. Next year's free agent market's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be hectic. It's going to be worse than this year. Hopefully not worse in regards to nonsensical reporting, but worse in the sense of there's more top talents available. So you're going to hear the Mets probably tag to more top guys far more than you saw this year. This year, the only top talent the Mets were connected to, truthfully, was Yamamoto. Ohtani was burned down fairly quick. Soto was burned down fairly quick. Once it was made clear what their vision is and their lack of willingness to trade key prospect assets and things of that nature. Man, oh man. Longo, thank you so much for a $5 donation. Obviously, the 12 years, $325 million we knew, but they put a 5th-year opt-out. Not sure if that had something to do with it. What's the best move now? Wait, is there a 5th-year opt-out in his contract? Did I miss that? Hold on, everybody. Can someone enlighten me? Can someone enlighten me what that opt-out was about? Where did that opt-out come from? Is that true? I don't know. Someone let me know in the chat right now. Let's see. I haven't seen anything to indicate that there was a 5th-year opt-out for the Dodgers contract. So I don't know where you're getting that, Longo. I have not seen reports to indicate the Mets had a 5th-year opt-out in their contract. I'm not entirely sure there. Longo, thank you for the donation, though. I appreciate you no less. Mets fans, Dodgers fans, Yanks fans, whoever you're a fan of, continue to let me know your raw reactions to the latest news that, yes, Yoshinobu Yamamoto will be taking his coveted talents to the LA Dodgers for the next 12 effing years. Oh, my God. It sucks because I want to have optimism if Roki Sasaki gets posted next offseason, which is a toss-up right now. I want to have optimism with that, but we still don't know. And even then, it's like we're continuing to be proven. Let's see. Someone's tagging me in something. Okay, there we go. The Mets had an opt-out after 5 years. Hold on, let me listen. This is from Andy Martino. You know what? We're just going to play it here. Andy, you got me blocked on Twitter. That means I'm going to play your stuff.
It is time for Inside Out as we are joined by SNY MLB insider Andy Martino, and Jack Curry of Yes Network tweeted it first. We're starting to get some information, but Andy, ultimately, what pushed the Dodgers over the top over the Yankees and the Mets for Yoshinobu Yamamoto?
Hey, man, this has been going the Dodgers' way for a while, at least ever since Shohei Ohtani was part of the recruiting effort for Yamamoto on his visit. Despite what Vegas odds or whoever on Twitter or whatever that was saying about the Mets were always on the outside looking in on this. But Steve Cohen, through force of will and ambition and resources, put them in the mix. He offered $325 million. Sources tell SNY. The deal they were discussing had an opt-out after 5 years, but it was not something it appeared that Yamamoto wanted to do. He took the same money to go to the Dodgers. The Yankees.
A fifth-year opt-out. I'm assuming that fifth-year opt-out was a player option and not a obvious. How stupid am I? So you're telling me the Mets had a fifth-year opt-out, more than likely player option, because it would make little to no sense in the world for that to be a Mets option at all, because Yamamoto's 25. It would make sense, give him a fifth-year option, even sway him more, saying, hey, be with us for the next 5 years. Once you're 30, in the peak of your career, you can go opt out and sign another 10 to 12-year, 13-year even contract somewhere. But Yamamoto decides to go to the Dodgers without that fifth-year option. The Mets have the more appealing offer on the table, if that's the case. If that's a player option, which, again, it makes zero sense for it to be a team option. That would make little to no sense. Unless, it's just the fact of there's concern with Tommy John or something, like in Kodai Senga's deal. Because the Mets have an opt-out similarly for that reason. That really feels like, again, the Mets have the best offer on the table, but he decided to go to LA because they matched. I mean, the Mets couldn't have offered $350. No, it doesn't seem like that they were given the opportunity to, because they had the first offer in, the Dodgers had their offer in, and as soon as the Dodgers had their offer in, Yamamoto said yes. We don't know if Dodgers didn't have opt-out. I mean, it's been reported already what the official contract is for Yamamoto. Again, things could change. Maybe they will have an opt-out in the end. If so, then okay, fair play. But we'll see what happens. Let's see. Zach, thank you so much for $5 donation. I appreciate that. Zach says, do you think the Mets screwed up by making the offer first rather than waiting for the Dodgers to make their bid? No, because one, we don't know if the Mets were aware of the Dodgers' status in their bid. The Dodgers could have had a bid first. Mets bid. It goes back to Dodgers saying, hey, if you match this, I'll sign with you. That could have exactly been what played out. Okay, Mets fans and baseball fans, let's get a poll in the chat right now, because I want to ask you, what do you want the Mets to do going forward? That's what I want to hear from you guys. Guys, we have 1,400 concurrent viewers. Can you do me a favor and smash a like and subscribe button for your boy? We're trying to get to 25K subs by the end of the year. We're less than 1,000 subs away. We're right around not even 900. If you could smash those buttons, if you're new, if you enjoy consistent coverage on all things Mets, even in misery like this, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much in advance. And also, help us get to 500 likes by the end of the live show. That would also be greatly appreciated, as we're almost at 200 right now. But I'm going to put a poll up here in the chat right now. No, we're not doing a 24-hour stream, Scott. Stop with that stuff. Let's get into this, though. I want to put up a poll and ask you guys what you think the Mets are going to do here. I have a feeling this is going to go one of two ways. I think the Mets are going to go after one of Snell, Imanaga, Montgomery. I think that they're still going to end up going after one of those three because they need more rotation help. They know that. But I would not sleep on them in the trade market should they find a controllable starter that is appealing to them. Now, there is one controllable starter out there that I know is going to cost you a good amount in prospect return. However, makes a lot of sense. If the Brewers are willing to go down this route, they probably will be a bit more stubborn because he has multiple years of control, he's talented, and he makes sense for them where they're currently at. But if the Brewers are willing to shed more payroll, get a far superior prospect return than what they got in their more recent trade for those lower pieces in Adrian Hauser and also Tyrone Taylor, Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta is a name that I'm curious if the Mets find themselves going down. Again, we'll see what happens, but Freddie Peralta is a name that I'm definitely interested of if that'll be a route they consider going down. But again, if you're the Mets here, is Freddie Peralta, even with multiple years of control, worthy enough to want to give up some significant prospect capital for when you have these top talents available in next year's free agent market? It's a tough situation because you can understand both sides of the coin there. You'll worry. I think we got to think long-term now. The Mets have always been thinking more long-term than short-term here. And that's why we should not foresee them to be going out of their way to drop an absolute bag necessarily on Blake Snell. Let's see. I'm going to put up a poll right now. Give me 1 second, everybody. There you go, guys. For the love of God, I hope the Mets don't pivot to Snell. I don't think that they will. I truthfully don't. There's been everything to indicate that they won't do that. So for that reason, I don't foresee it happening. Yamamoto's deal is still pending physical per source. Okay, it's gonna happen, bro. I'm not worried about the physical falling through. And even if it did, he still wouldn't be coming here. I don't give a shit about that. Please take down the Yamamoto highlight reel. It's depressing. I know it's depressing. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. But I'm going to keep it rolling, though, especially for, viewers. If you're a Dodger fan, especially, I know you're very excited about this. I know that this is a Mets-centered channel. However, it goes both ways. If I'm going to talk about the signing you just did, naturally, I understand there's going to be Dodgers fans watching and wanting to see stuff. Okay. This sucks. This sucks so much, guys. You're going through it with me. This absolutely sucks. Let's see. We got a lot of votes coming in. Let me go to the votes here real quick. Let me go to the votes. Let's see. How should the Mets pivot? Already out of 300 votes, 47% say sign one of Monty Snell or Imanaga, 32% say just short-term fillers, and 20% say creative trade route. So again, guys with multiple years of control that the Mets could try to work out a deal with. Everyone's saying F. Stearns and Cohen are just wrong. No, I 100% agree. Thank you for the donation, Connor. If you've been following along this entire time, you understood what the Mets had to lose if they don't land Yamamoto, but you also understood that this entire time, it pretty much was Yamamoto or bust when it comes to what was available out there, what fits short-term and long-term. Name me players in the free agent market right now that makes sense to go all in for. There's very little. Very little. $200 likes away from 500 during the show. Thank you guys all so much for that. It really does mean a lot. Man, oh man. I'm curious how many Dodgers fans headed into this offseason thinking truthfully that this was going to happen. I mean, Friedman deserves a ridiculous amount of credit. The Dodgers organization deserves a tremendous amount of credit for what they managed to do here. But the Dodgers also, not just with having a very successful organization, but the Dodgers reap the benefit of being a West Coast talented team in LA that's better than the Angels. They reaped so much benefit here. If the Dodgers were on the East Coast, Ohtani doesn't go there. Yamamoto probably doesn't go there then. And that's just one of those things where it's like, what can you do at that point when location becomes that much of a factor for a lot of these guys coming over from Japan? Like Kodai Senga, we were so grateful as Mets fans because he deviated from that. You know, when Masaki Yoshida going to Boston deviated from that. Masahiro Tanaka deviated from that. We've seen Japanese players on the East Coast, but we know that there's naturally been a higher desire to be out West, especially if the clubs that are present out West are showing interest in you and are very talented and have a great, track record. That is the case with the Dodgers. They have everything that you would be looking for if you're in Yamamoto's shoes here. Like I said, I don't blame the guy whatsoever for going there. It's still a gut punch as a fan. That's what it is. Bear with me 1 second, everybody. Just want to adjust something real quick. Ay. This is frustrating. It really is. Gonna put that probably right there. Gonna get rid of that. Gonna put on that. And going to get rid of... Okay, guys, before we go further in the show, I have to let you guys know a little bit about today's video sponsor, that being our great friends at BetUS. BetUS, for many of you guys know, is America's #1 sportsbook. So if you love your odds, your overs, your unders, your spreads, any type of sports betting that you indulge, make sure to check out BetUS today, as they have you covered with all your sports betting needs. Their most recent odds on Yoshinobu Yamamoto did in fact have the Yanks as the top dog. They had the Mets at plus 600. They had the Giants above, and they had... Did they have the Dodgers? Did they have the Dodgers up? No, it wasn't Dodgers. I think they had Dodgers second. So the odds are actually fairly accurate there in reality. But if you guys love to do your normal sports betting, if you guys are excited for the regular season, I know that there's a lack of excitement with the Mets regular season right now. Trust me, I'm with you. I get it. The post-game shows will be apparent every single night, but they will not be stopping. We're going to be doing a bunch of unique WardyNYM parlays for Mets games this season. We'll be discussing them in pregame and breaking them down in post-game shows. If you're trying to get in on all that action today, make sure to check out BetUS, as they are your #1 sport source for all your sports betting needs. And shout out again to BetUS for being the sponsor of today's video. Greatly appreciate them as always. Again, please make sure to check them out, guys. I know that, of course, you guys probably have a lack of interest in a channel sponsor, but they do help out the channel a lot, and we're going to be working with them for quite a bit. And especially if you're an active bettor like myself, we're going to have a lot of fun with them heading into the regular season, especially if you love to do your simple money lines. Maybe you like to do your 3-pick parlay. Maybe you want to pick the Mets on the under, and then you're going to go with, okay, I'm going to pick Jeff McNeil with 2 or more hits. I'm going to go with Jose Quintana, 6 or more innings. If you guys like that type of stuff, make sure you stay tuned on the channel and check them out today, because you get a 125% boost with your first deposit. So if you deposit $100, you automatically get $225 to work with. It's that easy. And again, shout out to BetUS as always. But now I want to get into talking more to you guys about all this news and how you guys are feeling about this. Yes, as we've seen, the breaking news is unfortunately the following: Yoshinobu Yamamoto will be taking his talents to the Dodgers. And my biggest reaction to this is, one, the Mets had the same offer as the Dodgers on the table before LA. They did have a unique clause to their offer that supposedly is different from the Dodgers, because we have heard nothing indicate the Dodgers had a 5th-year opt-out. The Mets did. That opt-out was more than likely a player option for obvious reasons. Gives him a chance to opt out 5 years from now at the prime age of 30, when he could lock in another long-term deal should he wish. He decided not go down that route, to go to the Dodgers if they match his offer, because the appeal to be with the LA Dodgers for the next 12 years on paper right now realistically is far more appealing than being with the Mets for the next decade. I mean, Yamamoto is going to be Ohtani's teammate for the rest of his career now, more than likely. That's exciting as all hell if you're Yamamoto, right? And that's exciting as all hell if you're Ohtani and Dodgers fans. I mean, Like I said, if the Dodgers do not win it all in the next couple years, it'll be the most hilarious thing. And it just further proves that while spending is great, it'll only get you so far. But I have a feeling this will finally get the Dodgers over the hump. I think they're finally going to now be that evil empire that they've been trying to be for years on end. This is the 90s Yankees we're talking about, okay? To all these Yanks fans out there that think they have the evil empire back, they do not. The LA Dodgers are the top dog this season until proven otherwise. They absolutely are. It's so hard to foresee otherwise. It really is. Even with how talented the Atlanta Braves are. You know, the Braves have plenty of moves that they need to make this offseason to rectify their rotation. I'm curious if they're going to land Dylan Cease or not. You know what I mean? Like, they have things that they certainly need to figure out themselves. There we go. Okay, guys, where are we in the poll right now? That's what I want. Also, apologies, guys. I'm going to blow out my nose real quick. As you know, I'm very much under the weather at the moment. My biggest takeaway about this news is that at least I don't have to worry about the Yamamoto sweepstakes anymore. As much as I enjoy it, as much as it builds, traction on the channel anytime a top team you cover is involved in sweepstakes for a top player in the free agent market, and while that's great and all, so the way it drags certainly is, the way it dragged is certainly something that didn't hurt me in my channel growth, but as a fan, you get tired of these things, especially when they end up not going in your favor. So I'm just happy that we at least have come to a conclusion with this saga, even though it did not go in our way that we were hoping for us Mets fans, and now we can move forward. But holy shit, was this a drag. Man, oh man. Okay, guys, in the poll right now, still at now 500 votes, roughly 50% of you guys think Monty, Snell, or Imanaga should be the moves to make for the rotation piece after missing out on Yoshinobu Yamamoto. My question now to everyone, to my Mets fans, my Yanks fans, anyone that was in the Yoshinobu Yamamoto sweepstakes that is not the Dodgers, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your disappointment level in finding out this news that Yamamoto is heading to the Dodgers? Let me know. This is so anticlimactic. Yep. The guy, thank you so much for a $5 donation, says, why not sell the pieces, Lindor and Pete? Just sell the fans that we are biding a great area around the stadium and have a team by then. No, the Mets are not going to trade away Lindor, and no one's going to take that contract realistically right now either. Alonso, the Mets, especially now after losing out on Yamamoto, I'm curious if the Mets view Alonso at all of more so of a priority for the sake of trying to save face a bit this offseason. This sucks, don't get me wrong, but if the Mets somehow inked an extension with Alonso before the season began, that would at least help lessen the blow to fans that were coming out of an offseason where you had very little to be happy or excited about. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think Alonso's going to hit his free agent class, and hopefully the Mets bring him back like Brandon Nimmo, but I digress. Highly unlikely, but what about trading for Dustin May or Tony Gonsolin? Both under control, but out for half the year. Dodgers don't need them anymore. I don't know. Picking up Dodgers sloppy seconds, I'm not sure if that's necessarily the best thing. Dustin May has nasty stuff, but he struggled to stay on the field. Same thing with Tony Gonsolin. Gonsolin's a very different repertoire of an arsenal than Dustin May. Point stands, though. I'm not sure, Jack. I don't think the Mets are going to be doing any big trades with the Dodgers in the near future. Going to go on a limb and say that. Most of you guys are at a 9, a 10, a 7 to 10 in disappointment level, and I'm right there with you. Right now, my disappointment's probably, I don't know if it's fully kicked in yet, but I'd say my disappointment level is probably at an 8. Because let me tell you guys this, too. Another thing that's easy to bypass as a fan, but not something that's easy to bypass as a content creator. If the Mets landed Yamamoto, I was not only excited from the fan perspective, but as a creator perspective, I knew that would have been so awesome for so many reasons. For the channel, for its growth. I mean, you bring over such a large contingent of new fans by acquiring guys that are stars from respective countries. Like, that's a big deal. That's why landing Ohtani is such a bigger deal for Dodger creators than just fans. And now you land Yamamoto, the entire effing country of Japan's going to watch every single Dodger game now. They're all Dodger fans. A large contingent of them will now be Dodgers fans going forward. So from a channel growth perspective, not only the growth of the organization, there are so many things why I would have loved to see this happen. So it sucks. It really does. And I'm looking forward to the day when the Mets do start to land those pieces that not only appeal to the average fan, but on a national scale, on how it impacts the league and viewership. On a global scale, these are things down the road I'm certainly looking forward to. But on to Imanaga, yeah, man, we'll see. I'm not against Shota Imanaga whatsoever. I like to make that clear. I like Shota Imanaga a lot. He wasn't great with the home run rate at the MPB level. That's something he needs to work on at the MLB level. But he does induce a good amount of ground balls as well. Gets those flyouts. There are plenty of things about Shota Imanaga that I like. I think Imanaga truthfully has a higher ceiling than someone like Jordan Montgomery. Second question, everyone watching live right now and on replay. If the Mets signed Shota Imanaga, would that help lessen the blow, at least to a degree, with losing out on Yamamoto? If the Mets rotation next season is Kodai Senga, Shota Imanaga, Jose Quintana, Luis Severino, one of Adrian Hauser, Tyler McGill, or maybe even a short-term option like a Lucas Giolito, a Mike Clevenger, if that is how the Mets roll out to begin 2024, how would you feel as a fan? Let me know. See Snell and or Monty would be nice. Don't get the hate for Snell. He's not 40 in the current Cy Young Award. It's not as much about hate with Snell as it is concern on how he's going to age on that contract. The guy's walk rate is not good. His expected numbers were not great at all last year. He definitely had some luck on his side in his Cy Young Award winning season. Again, when Snell's on, he has a ridiculous swing and miss. Like, he can be truly nasty. Like a veteran southpaw and Chris Sale. Like, they just have it. They absolutely do. But for a Mets team, given where they're currently at and what their vision is, Snell doesn't really fit in that vision too much. Yamamoto did. Snell doesn't as much. Again, if the Mets land Blake Snell, I'm of course going to be excited and looking forward to seeing what he can do, but I'm going to have reservations on that contract, how it looks, and also how it kind of contradicts a little bit on the Mets' vision. Again, I'm just basing this all of what we've known, what's been reported, what Stearns and Cohen, what has come out of their mouth so far heading into the offseason. And all indications are that we should not expect the Mets to sign a top free agent like a Snell or potentially even Montgomery, even if they missed out on Yamamoto. Could that change now? Could there be a desperation level? It's possible, but we do know the Mets have had a plan in place for a long period of time, regardless on Yamamoto and where he be landing. They had a vision in place. If they don't land Yamamoto, that would be the case, if they're going to pivot this way. And I'm more than likely certain that the guys available in the market right now are all guys that they are pondering still. Penn Mets with the $20 donation. Thank you so much, my friend. Says, what can you do? It is obvious he wanted the Dodgers more. I never want to hear another owner, MLB, or fans of other teams ever complain how much Steve Cohen spends. They seem to have no issues with the Dodgers. Now, yeah, you're 100% right. 100% right. It doesn't matter as long as it happens to a team that the MLB wants to see succeed. That's all that matters. We're going to remember that, by the way. We're going to fucking remember that. Just the fact... I want to punch something. This pisses me off so much. Just the fact that they instilled a Steve Cohen tax. When all the man did, spending-wise, outside of Lindor's extension, was re-signing Edwin Diaz, re-signing Brandon Nimmo, and signing two grizzled vet future Hall of Famers on short-term deals. To suggest that that's a bad look for the league just shows you how ridiculous these people's mindsets are. The Dodgers just spent $1.1 billion already this offseason, but that's okay. Again, I'm not mad at the Dodgers for what they did. I'm just saying, call it what it is. There's hypocrisy here. It's so frustrating. Peter, thank you so much. $2 donation. $325 million towards Soler, Turner, and short-term pitchers. The Mets are going to spend this offseason. We know it. Just to what degree? Apologies, guys. Just getting caught up with what you guys are saying. Let's see. I commented before the Japanese players don't want to play on the East Coast, and that Senga was a real one for choosing Mets. And I got comments saying it's not true. No, it's not true. There's definitely a factor. The average MPB player probably favors out west for obvious reasons. Just location, easier to travel back to Japan. Those things come into play. Playing in warmer climate comes into play as well, especially because these guys are used to playing in domes. So if they can't play in domes, the next best thing is to have at least 80 games, half your games throughout the regular season, being played in, more likely than not, nice weather. You know, I also believe if the Toronto Blue Jays were not in Toronto, I think they'd have such a greater chance at landing some players, because a lot of guys love playing in domes. They do, especially MPB guys. But because you're going all the way north to the point of Toronto, there's a lack of appeal there. And the Blue Jays fans will always have to deal with that, unfortunately. But let me see, guys. Like I said, I asked you how you'd feel if the Mets landed Imanaga. How would you feel about that? Throw Roki in the rotation. I'm good. Wishful thinking, my friend. One can only hope we land Roki Sasaki. I'm sure we'll go through those sweepstakes, and I'm sure there's going to be a solid chance of heartbreak once again a year from now. Cannot wait. Selfish with the $10 donation says, I would say that if Yamamoto was going to use Cohen to raise the price for the Dodgers, let him go. Look at the free agent class after this upcoming season. That is the time to spend, not now. Appreciate the donation, Selfish. And again, I've been under that belief. I understand that. I'm not opposed to that. It just obviously sucks when you lose out on a guy where you did put a very valiant effort towards. I thought for sure he would sign with the Yanks. This is Doc Music. Yeah, every Yanks fan and their mother, for the most part, thought he was signing with the Yanks. Yanks fans got a little ahead of themselves once they got that little Juan Soto. They're like, we're getting everybody. Newsflash, Dodgers run this town now, folks. They are the team to beat. Juan Diaz with a $5 donation. We dodge a bullet, Wardy. He's never pitched here. He used us to hike up his price. He never wanted to come here. The kids are going to play. Juan Diaz, we'll see if you end up holding true. I have a feeling Yamamoto is going to be a tremendous talent regardless. Again, I'm not going to be one of those fans that shit on a player. Like, I might be pissed if he used this for leverage. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not going to sit here and shit on the guy and wish him a lack of success or something. Like, Yamamoto is such an effing talented guy. That's why this pisses me off so much. I wouldn't feel nearly to the same degree if this was a Snell, a Montgomery, and Imanaga. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. But Yamamoto not only sold himself so well to all teams this MLB offseason, but he sold himself really well to the fan bases of said clubs. He really did. Because he just checked off every box, man. And that's why it stings so much. It's funny how we almost spent $1 billion last year and the Dodgers did this year, but it's not an issue now. Yep. It's all about how you spend it, apparently. It's all about how you spend it. And you know the MLB is never going to come and try to paint Ohtani in a negative light. That's never going to happen because of how much revenue he brings to the sport. So, it is what it is. And let's see, guys. Guys, we're just over 100 likes away from 500 in the chat. We're trying to get a 500 before the end of the live show. If half you guys could do me a huge solid and hit that like button if you haven't already, be greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much in advance. People on replay, same applies to you guys. We're going to be wrapping things up here sooner rather than later, but I want to get some of your comments, questions, and concerns. I'm going to figure out if I'm going to record a late video tonight as well, or if I'm just going to jump to the chase and do early content tomorrow. I'm not sure yet. So I'm under the weather for most of you guys. Also, thank you guys so much for the donations. You have no idea how much I appreciate them. They go such a long way on the channel because everything goes back into the channel and to making this ever float for us to be as consistent as we are. So thank you again for that, guys. Really does mean a lot. But out of roughly 700 votes, 28% of you guys view short-term filler options is best. 21% say creative trade route is best, and 51% believe signing one of Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell, or Shota Imanaga is the way to go for the team. Good never want Yoshi, Viva La Sapucky, and our rotation is dog shit. Love you, Wardy. Love you too, 1200. Find it hard to believe you didn't want Yoshi. That sounds like someone who's unfortunately not having the best night. But I appreciate you being in here and your endless support, no less. Eat garlic, Scott? Will do. Wardy, no Dodgers gave him a $50 bonus to sign? What are you talking about? I'm going to go on a limb and say $50 didn't move the needle. Did you think Mets would have gone to 400? No, I don't think the Mets would have gone to 400. I think with posting fee, the Mets would have been willing to go close to 400. Because with posting fee in this Dodgers deal, they're spending a total of $375 million. It's crazy that we just talk about these dollars like they're nothing when they're certainly something, too, might I add. It truly is absurd. But no, to answer your question, I think the Mets probably would have tapped out, if I had to assume, 335, 340 to get them just under to a $400 million in clean posting fee. That's just my assumption. But if you're asking, I'm going to say it. $50 million signing bonus. Dodgers gave a $50 million signing bonus. I'm sorry, but that doesn't move the needle. I still don't think that moves the needle for me. That's awesome. But if you don't think the Mets wouldn't have had signing bonuses in play in their contract, I got a new story to tell you. On top of that, if you're Yamamoto, the guaranteed money was always more there with the Mets. You want to know why? That fifth-year player option, assuming it's a player option, would have gave Yamamoto a ridiculous bag. Okay? We're talking about $325, but if he opts out after 5 years, could sign a 12 to 13-year deal until he's, in his, early 40s on a ridiculous contract, higher than what it would have been now. Just imagine what the pitching market's going to be 5 years from now, price point-wise. We're touching $700 million on a Shohei Ohtani that isn't pitching at all the next season. You know what I mean? Like, the price points are going to continue to be absurd. $50 million is big. That's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. That's a lot. But I'm saying that still does not move the needle for me. And I do not foresee that to be the X factor in this whatsoever. I really don't. But let me double check, guys. I want to make sure I don't miss any further information. 50 likes away or so from 500. Thank you guys all so much for that. Yamamoto's camp was seeking opt-outs after years 5 and 8, making a highly questionable baseball commitment more palatable for Mets. Interesting. So, what this tells me again, Yamamoto was seeking opt-outs for years 5 and 8, which made things more palatable for the Mets. While that's true, he isn't getting those opt-outs with the Dodgers. So he clearly had a stronger willingness to want to do that if he would land with the Mets, so he wouldn't be stuck for certainty with the Mets for 10 to 12 years. And again, I don't blame him at all, because we don't know how the Mets are going to project. We can sit here and assume, but we don't know how they're going to project and how they're going to look 5 years from now, even if they had him. So, check Martino article. I'm reading it as we speak. Okay. Indeed, the two finalists for Yamamoto were the Yankees and Dodgers per sources. Well, that needs to reiterate then that the Yanks had a better offer than 300. Or if that just means that Yamamoto was willing to go less for the Yanks, but ended up going for the matched offer that the Mets gave, but to the Dodgers. See, speaking of the Yankees, they wanted Yamamoto and made an extremely aggressive bid at $300 million, but they were also unwilling to engage in bidding war with Mets and Dodgers. If Yamamoto was to become a Yankee, it would be because he wanted enough to leave a little bit on the table. Surprise, surprise. Steinbrenner acted exactly the way that we figured he was going to act. He was banking enough on Yamamoto's interest in coming to Queens. Cashman was banking enough on dusting off the old number 18 that he's have saved a couple years. Sorry to tell you this, folks, but when it comes to dollars, that is more than likely the most important factor when going after a player, unless the dollars also are present with a club that on paper is far more appealing, as a club that the players certainly would like, as long as they could reach that price point. You know what I mean? It seemed like the Mets would have had more uncertainty in their contract. There would have been more uncertainty with Yamamoto's future if he landed with the Mets, with a potential 5 and maybe even 8-year option, versus the Dodgers, where those options aren't even apparent. Yanks went 10 years, $300 million. Yeah, I'm not surprised that Steinbrenner didn't want to get into a bidding war. He's not his father, and he has yet to prove that he is. Sorry, my friend. Reminds me of when the Yankees would sign players, guys over Boston back in the day. So who will be more full throttle, Boston or New York Mets? Robbie, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Robbie, I feel like Boston's going to overpay Jordan Montgomery. That's what I think is going to happen. Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell, I think Boston's going to get pretty desperate with. That's my assumption right now. I don't think the Mets are going to show that same desperation level because they're focused a lot on next year's free agent class. Understandably so. But Shota Imanaga is that guy who I do hope that they are going to really push for, that's on a multi-year deal in this free agent class, that it's him. I like Monty a lot. I really do. But I understand the lack of appeal to overpay a mid-rotation piece in him. Versus Imanaga, there's more upside, higher ceiling. You could argue. Yamamoto saw Flushing on Gmaps and said pass. That's fine. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate that, my friend. Do you think the Mets would have gone? No, I answered that already. Okay, so I'll make sure. Take a chance on Bauer. Don't see the Mets doing that for obvious reasons. Man. And also, guys, Robbie Hyde, who donated, one of the best MLB YouTubers out there. Not only a very good friend of mine, we've been texting back and forth all day. Robbie, I still need to answer your voice messages from earlier. I apologize. I'll get to them soon. But Robbie kills it with his MLB coverage. All things MLB. Was streaming about Yamamoto. If not, he's still actively streaming. Make sure to check him out. Love Robbie to death. Him, Jim at Ballcap Sports, those guys, the absolute go-tos. And, of course, then you have the big behemoths as well. My man Mark at Giraffe Neck Mark. Fuzzy at Fuzzy. I mean, the list goes on and on. Love all those guys. Are there any other mega talented international superstars pitching batter available as free agents? Not this offseason. Not this offseason. Roki Sasaki is the next big name. Himself and the third baseman, the power-hitting third baseman from the MPB, that's expected to be a free agent for 2025. I'm blanking on his name. It starts with an M, both the first and the last name, I think. I think he had a little bit of a wishy-washy year, though. He had 56 home runs last season. But this season, the MPB, after having an underwhelming WBC playing for Team Japan, I don't know what his numbers are looking like. I have to check. But Roki Sasaki is the next big one. Man, one can only pray and hope that the Mets land Roki Sasaki a year from now. The kid's like 21, touches 103 on the gun. If you think Yamamoto has a high ceiling, let me introduce you to Roki Sasaki. You know, in tiers of potential ceiling, especially long term, Sasaki's number 1, Yamamoto's number 2, and Senga's number 3. We'll see what they do. Murakami, thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, guys. Valerie, we are live currently, yes. We won't be live for much longer because I'm losing my voice, and I may still need to record a quick video for you guys before the night ends, because I know a lot of you guys like what we are talking about here, basically, but in a shortened format if you don't want to go through the entire live show. So we'll see. Trade for Sandy Alcantara? I don't know if that's going to happen. Get Shota Imanaga says, Davis, thank you so much for the donation. And that will give the Mets a chance to get Sasaki because that kid is good. He's damn good. Roki Sasaki is the shit. You think Roki is risky? Since he doesn't have much of a track record, there's always a risk involved when you go after MPB pitchers. But the same way people are willing to invest in Yamamoto is the same way people are going to be willing to invest like never before in Sasaki. I assure you that. Montgomery is not a difference maker. Well, I mean, yeah, that's probably why the Mets aren't going to overpay for him. We all like Monty. I really do. I think Monty would be a nice fit for this rotation, but he may cost a price that could be out of the Mets' range for wanting to spend a big overpay on a mid-rotation piece. You know, it's not necessarily in their cards, so we'll see. When does Imanaga posting period end? I believe it's right around the same time as I think it's right around the same time as Yamamoto's. Probably first week in January. Who are we kidding? He'll probably go to the Dodgers. Again, there's always that risk, for sure. There's always that risk, unfortunately. Yariel Rodriguez is nice. I've heard little to nothing on his market, though. Quincy with the 500 like, you absolute beauty. Thank you so much, my man. Greatly appreciate that. Happy to have you in here. Will break the next contract record, Sasaki? He probably will. He probably will. Because here's the thing. If Sasaki gets posted in the next 2 years, he's going to probably sign a 12 to 14-year contract. You know? There's a great reality. You could go 12 to 14 with multiple opt-outs. All right, y'all. With that being said, I think that this is where I'm going to tap out for the night. Because like I said, I still may record a quick video that I want to do. But aside from that, guys, I thank you all so much for watching. My over 1,000 concurrent viewers the entire time. It really does. January 5th is the date it appears for Imanaga, according to Joey Turner. Thank you so much, Joey, should that be the case. But guys, thank you all so much for watching. I also want to say it once more. I know these sweepstakes sucked. I know the reporting was horrendous. It was such a drag, and we all went through it together. But to everyone that was still staying diligent, being great supporters on the channel the entire time, even now in heartbreak, you have no idea how much I appreciate every single one of you. And in the highs and the lows, the grind will never stop here in WardyNYM. We will continue to chug forward and see now what is next for this team in Queens that has a shit ton of work to do, and now we can expect the floodgates to open. Not landing Yamamoto means that it's time to now start officially make bigger moves. To what extent, we're going to soon find out. Thank you so much, though, folks. We'll be back live probably sometime or the next day. We'll have a video coming out sooner than later, I'm sure. But have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. This is your boy Wardy, signing out.